Good morning, Yorkshire Classic Cars Limited fans, and welcome to a very, very rainy, horrible, overcast day in Retford. I did a video recently on electrics. Don't know if you've seen it at all. It was just how I go through and give you an example of how I repair electrics on cars that I'm restoring or have restored. And I showed you how to sort of renew the connectors and repair simple faults on wiring looms to save generally buying a new loom. When I was doing that video, I mentioned that if anybody was interested, I'd do a review and show you how to repair bad earths and things, which are the culmination of these, okay? Hopefully you can see that. That's a Triumph bulb holder, and obviously a bulb. These are fitted to all Triumphs, pretty much. I don't know when they started with these, but I know right back to TRs, 5, 6s, things like that. Stags, Spitfires, they all had these little bulb holders in. Now, these are available new, but they don't always work, even if you buy them new. Now, I'm going to show you a very, very quick and simple fix for these, so that if you've got a bad connection, if you're getting bad earths, if you're getting bad illumination to the rear of your vehicle, is usually the fault. Now, I aren't saying that this will fix every fault, but it will fix the problem with these that has occurred over the years, okay? So straight to it, I'll show you the tools I'm going to use. Right, here's an example of the tools. This is just a gas canister because I use gas soldering iron. I like a gas soldering iron because they get very hot very quickly and they're very effective. You don't have to use one of those, it's just quicker for me to use that, and it's just what I've got used to. A simple set of warding files. You don't have to use a warding file. You could use anything sharp, really. Something like a scribe or something with a sharp edge on it would work if you really needed it to for what we're going to do. A little bit of sandpaper. This is a little bit of second-hand 400 grit Abranet. You want something fairly fine, and that's quite fine. And this here, that's my coffee. I'm drinking that because it's cold this morning. Okay. So first I'll show you what we're going to do with this, where the fault occurs, and how I'm going to fix it. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing. Right, so here's the bulb holder, okay? Basically how it works, briefly, is the connection here on the side is the positive, so that's where the power goes in. This is an indicator holder, so it's a single connection, as you can see there, okay? If it was a stop and tail light, it would have a second connection coming out of that slot there. The operation is the same. It's very easy to fix both. The bulb comes in and out by giving it a simple twist, press and twist, just apply gentle pressure. If they're stuck in there, it can be a bit of a pain. So the first thing to do is have a look in there, look how sort of degraded it is. And what we're going to do is we're going to clean all these connectors, okay? So the first step is to remove the rubber boot. If you've got aftermarket ones fitted, they may not have these on, but just if you're ever so gentle, you can get those off. Now, if you're doing a restoration, I would normally clean these, probably a little bit of thinners or a little bit of panel wipe just to clean that all up. Because this isn't for a restoration, I'm not going to show you how to do that. You can work that out for yourselves. Okay, so the problem lies with the unit earths through these connectors here. And having spent quite a while trying to repair these in the past, I worked out that the fault isn't always... As you put these in, these are obviously sprung. As you put them in, they sort of clip in and they scrape at the metalwork on the rear lamp. Now, that's usually fine to clean this up enough for a surface. What I do there is, first off, before I start, I give all that a really good clean. Okay, now I'm not going to go through the whole process, but I go give it all a really good clean, not cream, clean, with a little bit of emery cloth, a little bit of anything, just clean all that surface up, get rid of any tarnish, so that you've got a nice clean surface to create your earth there. Now, as I say, I'm not going to do them all. I will do that one. Nice and clean, cleany, like that. I would go a bit further, but you want that silver to come through, that zinc plating, and that gives it a good connection then. I do them all, just to be safe. It takes minutes. I mean, if you're doing this yourself at home, doesn't really matter how long it takes you. If I'm doing it on a workshop, it does, but then, I'd rather it be right. So the more chances, you only need one clean, truth be told, but the fact is, the cleaner it is, the more chance you've got of getting and keeping a good earth, okay? Now, the second problem that you get is obviously dirt and fungus on the copper section, so you get a verdigris. Now, if you look at that one, it's very clean in there. That's actually pretty good. To clean that, if it needs cleaning, I'm going to use a warding file. I'm going to use this flat one here. Just use whichever one you favour. Get it down into the bottom there and give it a good clean, okay? So just scrape off any tarnish. People moan and mutter on about, oh, you know, you're removing material. Well, yeah, but, you know, get over it. It's only a tiny little bit. You don't have to do it every year. If you do this properly, it'll probably last you 20 years anyway. And let's be fair, the amount of material you're removing for 20 years is negligible. It's microns, you know. So you want a really good clean connection on there, bright copper. Okay, so just take your time, give it a good cleaning up to ensure that when the hole on the bulb goes in, this part here, which again I would clean, use my emery cloth for that. If the bulb is good, there's no point throwing it away. If it's just got a bit of tarnish on it, this is good around the edges, so I'm not worrying about that too much. Give that a clean. Set it to one side carefully. This is the point where I usually knock it off the bench. Next thing I'm going to do is clean the earth connection here. Okay, so you should be able to see inside there, that is the earth here. Okay, and that contacts with the outside of the bulb here. All right, so this needs to be clean, obviously, because that forms the entire contact. So again, I'm going to give that a little clean here, just to make sure it's nice and clean. If you find that after we've done all this, it doesn't work, just check these again, give them a good clean up. I'm just scraping it, that's all. If you bend it a bit, don't worry too much. What we're going to do afterwards is just bend that out with a knife or something, just to pull it out so it makes a really good connection like that. Okay, now then, the fault that occurs with these, in my experience, is here. So that connector here just presses against there, okay? So what I do is I give that a really thorough clean in there. So I'm going to scrape that all up and clean the metal on both surfaces. The outer sprung part is steel. The inner part is copper. And I'm going to get that really clean. And you've probably, if you've any idea what I'm doing, you'll have worked out what I'm going to do next. I'm going to get that super clean in there. This one is quite a bad one in there, actually. There's quite a bit of dirt in there. And I'm struggling to do it because I'm trying to do it through the lens of the camera. So, really good clean in there. I've usually got my glasses on at this stage. And I may have to pause you and put them on in a sec. But there we go. Okay, so I'm cleaning those up really thoroughly, and I want a really good connection on that edge there. Okay, to try and avoid what's happening next when I solder those together. Okay, so the copper wants to be really clean. If you've got any to hand, I usually have a little bit of plumber's thingy-jobby, flux. And I put a bob of flux on, but I've mislaid mine somewhere around the workshop. I know it's in here somewhere, but where exactly? It's probably rolled under my skyline. But I moved that yesterday and it wasn't under there, so yeah, nice and clean. Cleaner the better, okay? Then I'm going to set that aside. Oops. So, yeah, sorry, knocked over the old thing. Every time I move the bench, because this piece of chipboard that I'm working on has a bit of a curve in it, so every time I move the bench, it wibble wobbles the gimbal and it falls over. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set that to one side there. And I'm going to turn on my soldering iron and bring it up to temperature. So as the soldering iron's finishing heating itself up, I'm going to solder. Oops, sorry about that. What I'm going to solder into is here. Okay, into here. Oops, let it come into focus. So I'm wanting to get heat on both these areas. Now, it may be difficult for you to see me doing that, even if I zoom right in. But I need to get heat onto the copper. Oops, sorry, again. Onto the copper and onto the steel section. Now, the steel section is obviously going to dissipate a lot more heat due to it being larger. Hence why I use a very powerful big soldering iron. Now, I aren't going to be able to see what you can see as I'm doing this, because obviously I'm going to have to bend forward and do it. I've donned my seeing eye glasses. And I am making sure the soldering iron is absolutely scorchio hot, okay? Now, you can see the orange glow there as it's got up to temperature. This is a Portasol. They're the same, they're the people who make the snap-on ones. I've used these for years. I bought a second-hand one off of the Bay of E many moons ago, and I loved it. And eventually I managed to drop a section and lose a part, so I had to buy a new one, but I love this soldering iron. I'm going to check it's hot, just tiny touch. The solder is just a normal flux cord electronics or electrical solder. So it has a flux in it. It's a thin solder, and as you can see, I've twisted it together just because I want it to work like a thicker solder, but that doesn't really matter. This is the only stuff I could buy at the time. I bought a reel, 7 years ago, and I'm still using it, so, you know, you obviously don't use a lot. So I done a little solder on the end of the soldering iron. I'm not going to give you a soldering lesson, but if I could manage to teach 11-year-olds how to do this, I'm fairly sure you'll be able to do it if you've got any experience whatsoever. Right. Having knocked my phone over for the 28th time, I've zoomed you a little lower down. Everything's a little bit wibbly wobbly, and although this wouldn't matter normally, but of course because you're watching, it's inevitable. I'm probably in the way of what you're trying to see, but I am trying to heat up those two sections there. It is literally near impossible whilst doing it on video, of course. I do promise I'm a good solderer normally. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing. But I'm heating up both sections there and just easing a tiny bit of solder on there. It only has to bridge the gap. This doesn't have to be a structural soldering job. We're just trying to get it to tin on and go on there. Okay. I can see the steel's taking a little solder there. The copper I'm struggling to get some heat in. There. Sometimes it'll take you a couple of attempts. Famous last words. He says, making a big blob of solder. Sorry about that. I've tinned the two together. Get a little heat in there, and we've got it. Okie dokie. Turn the soldering iron off and hope we don't need it again. Right. Hopefully you saw what I did in what was probably the world's messiest bit of soldering, but quite honestly, if I can do it the right way around, it's a lot better. So what I've done is, I've just soldered a connection between the two. So in there now, and this is obviously, it's how long it's actually taken me, so this is literally the hottest thing in the world. So that has got a soldered joint between that earth strip and here. So you've got a good solid joint. Now then, if I go get my test meter, so I've gone and got my test meter. The part hasn't moved, as you can see. You can see the test meter. I test the probes before I start. You should be able to hear that audible sound. If I now check, and it is still really hot, because I have just literally done it, touch it to the piece I cleaned up, and touch it to the, whoops, goodness me, sorry about that. If I go to the one I've cleaned up, normally I'd have cleaned them all, and then touch the earth, we've got a good connection there. So that means if I put the bulb back in, assuming the bulb actually works, I haven't tested it, so assuming the bulb has a good connectivity through it, yeah, put that back in now. Go to the cleaned section that I've cleaned, that one. Touch it with my probe, touch the out probe. We've got a good connection, and you can see it's a really good connection if you look at the numbers on the meter. You can see the meter numbers there. It goes down to 002. Now there will be some resistance obviously from the filament, but very minimal. It's pretty good, okay? And that, ladies and gents, is how you fix them. All you need to do from there, sorry about the jiggly camera, is slot that back on. As I say, I would actually clean all these. I would clean the rubber, I'd clean all these connectors before I reinstalled it, but that is now fixed. So, ladies and gentlemen, that is how Yorkshire Classic Cars Limited fixes bulb holders for Triumphs. It'd work on anything. I have bulb holders for my Capri, very similar to that. So I mount on Escorts, mount on pre-facelift Capri, stuff like that. I tend to find they don't give any trouble. Those ones do, and that is purely the issue you've got if you're getting a bad earth, if you're getting earths that are going wrong on the back, but everything else checks out okay. So your connectors are good, your earth lines are good, and your power's good, then that's usually the problem. Quite honestly, for every car I restore, before I put bulb loaders in, that's what I do. I solder them all in, and then I know they're going to work. If there's an issue, then I know it's elsewhere. I obviously have a test meter. If you haven't got one, I suggest you invest in one. If you're running a classic car, especially a Triumph, a Rover, anything like that, minis, I would personally invest in one because it can save you a lot of time and effort, and they're only about a tenner, brand new, probably less off if you go on the Bay of E or Amazon. But yeah, so yeah, that's it really. I won't waffle on. Thanks for watching. If you like the video, please like. If you think it's useful, have a look through my other videos. There's lots and lots of how-to videos on there. I appreciate you aren't going to learn how to weld in one video and stuff like that, but I'm hoping they have helped people. If you want to subscribe, obviously I do videos as regular as possible. I've been on holiday for a while, hence there hasn't been a video on. But yeah, hope that's of help. Yeah, thanks for watching. Laters.